and I'm the host of the podcast Why Learn Business English, the Art of Communication. LearnBusinessEnglish.net is a place to go to learn how to become an entrepreneur and for our comprehensive and engaging course for learning business English online. Today, I would like to introduce Professor Susan Ford, who will be telling us why it is so important to listen if you want to be a good communicator. She is an expert on the subject of communication, being a fellow and emeritus professor of speech and communication at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama. She is also co-founder of Powerful Communication, a company that specializes in teaching people how to communicate effectively. Now, Susan, welcome. How does listening help in communication?
Well, in essence, if you don't listen, there is no communication. It's part of a pact you have with the speaker. So it is quite crucial to good communication. I don't think listening just helps with communication. I think listening is essential to good communication, because if the listener isn't listening, there is no communication. It is up to the communicator to sound sufficiently interesting at the beginning of anything they say to prompt the listener to want to listen. So it is a sort of pact between the person who is there to receive and the person who is there to give.
Now, I have read up the different types of listening, and they say the best type of listening is active listening. Do you think that's true?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've got an analogy here for you. There is a difference between seeing something and looking at something. Similarly, there is a difference between hearing something and listening to something. And listening takes focus, attention, that you have committed to listen to what's being said. And I would say on the back of that I think possibly it is more difficult nowadays for people to learn to listen well, because I think there are many more distractions around than there once were. I think one needs to encourage an improvement of this particular habit.
And so you're saying that it is important, or very important, for people to be an active listener. Is there somebody that you think is a good listener, an example?
I could say I think I am a good listener because I know how important it is, and I ensure that wherever I am, be I lecturing, be I teaching, be I at a public event, I know how important it is to the performer or to the speaker that the person who is listening is seen to be listening. So I sit still, I focus, I switch on, I listen to what they are saying, I listen to what they are, and this sounds bizarre, but I listen to what they are feeling, because you don't just hear the words, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. You need to have your antennae open to respond to what the person is feeling as well as what they're saying. So I encourage good listening behaviour with anybody with whom I work. That sounds very vain, but I know this from personal experience, that it does make a difference to how the people feel when I sit forward slightly, focus on them, show on my face that I am understanding and responding to what they're saying. And that's the sort of code I would encourage anybody I work with. I'm not the only one who does this, but I'm just saying I know it from personal experience.
So it sounds as though there are different types of listening. And now I have read up about the fact that some people pretend they're listening.
Yes, indeed.
Quite commonly.
Well, going back to the thing about seeing something and then looking, you hear all sorts of things going on, but the difference between that and truly listening, of course, you can give something your total attention, and in those sorts of instances, you're likely to go, shh, shh, if anybody distracts you or interrupts or something's really crucial, then there is sort of attentive listening. You're there, you're listening, you're giving it your attention, but there's probably 5% thinking about other things. And then there are people who do dip in and out. A bit comes that they really care about, and then it moves on to something they're not so interested about. And then there are those who sort of pretend they're listening, you know, they go through the motions, but they're not at all. And then there are those who are just rude and sitting down and not paying any attention at all. And, you know, it's I suppose it's up to the individual. I just think if someone has gone to the trouble to prepare a presentation, it is rude if you don't give them your full attention. But you can't control how other people behave. You can only control how you behave. And I think it's your loss. I think if you don't listen fully to something, give it your full attention, then you're going to lose out.
Can you give any tips about how you can become a good listener? I mean, obviously, people all like to think that they're a good listener.
It's very hard to talk exclusively about listening without also mentioning communicating. And I think there is a responsibility to the communicator to ensure that their introduction captures the interest and the imagination of the listener. And so there is some responsibility there. And I will put my hand up to say that if the delivery lacks vitality, interest, vocal variety, pause and shape, it is very, very hard to listen with total attention. I have to say that I might possibly shift into the bracket where you are pretending to listen attentively. If something is lively and interesting and delivered with commitment and passion and belief, then you're halfway there to getting an attentive listening audience. So we're human. The better the speaker, the more likelihood you will have a good listener. I suppose if you knew you were going to have to answer questions afterwards, I don't know, then people might listen a bit better because they knew there might be a test at the end. I really don't know. It's concentration, and our butterfly minds, which flit around, need to be trained to focus. It's a discipline, and having a discipline is no bad thing.
And do you think that apart from concentrating, and people really have to listen, they have to listen to what the other person is saying, is there anything else that people can do apart from that? Is it because social media is too much of a distraction?
I think so. I mean, I'm not an expert on this, but I do listen to an awful lot of people in the education world, and they talk about, I mean, it's a constant dialogue with teachers that children have so many different distractions now than they used to have. Therefore, getting the attention of children and students is much more difficult. And I would say that if one moves from the live audience to working online, working on Zoom or whatever, on Teams, there is a tendency for people to do other things while they're there. And I would urge anybody who's working in that forum, in that manner, to give the speaker total concentration, because they can see if you're not listening, if you're not concentrating, if you're looking at your phone or if you're sending emails and what have you. I think, again, it's to do with being polite. Just you give the speaker total concentration. They can see if you're thinking about something different. Don't think just because you're staring at the screen. If your brain is going elsewhere, the speaker can see it. It's turning a tank around in the sea. One has to start encouraging good behaviour in terms of listening as well as in terms of speaking.
Well, thank you very much for speaking to us today, and I hope to speak again soon.
It's just lovely.
Thank you.